Welcome back to the Film Feeder podcast. I'm Jack Martin,
And I'm Joe Warne.
and today we will be discussing award season. We are right in the midst of it all. As of recording, we now have the nominations for the Oscars and the BAFTAs, and today we're just going to be talking about them. Yeah, so Joe, initial thoughts. How do you feel about this year's Oscar nominations?
Well, I guess where I want to start is I think that this has been like a really great year for film as a whole. Go back and listen to our first episode together from last month if you want more in-depth thoughts on some of our favorite films from this year. But in terms of the actual nominations that we've had, I think that this is actually a fairly strong crop. There's very little that I would personally change about this year's nominations. I do think that there are some quite baffling omissions, and we'll get some of the more individual nominations in a moment. But I think in terms of the Oscars, I think this is up there with the 2023 season where you had Barbie and Oppenheimer competing for Best Picture in terms of the quality of the overall films being nominated.
Yeah, there really does seem to be much more of a shift towards, films that, for one, people have actually seen. I think right off the bat, you have Sinners, which is officially the most nominated film in Oscars history with 16, a record that was previously 14, and it was held by All About Eve, Titanic, and La La Land. And in two of those cases, All About Eve and Titanic, those films went on to win Best Picture. And so did La La Land for a couple of minutes before it was officially revealed as Moonlight. But
Yeah, can I say for a second, I called that would happen. I was going so in that year, I was actually wanting Moonlight to win Best Picture. So you have no idea how elated I actually was when it turned out that the envelope snafu did actually happen.
really, I'm actually someone who, and I think Moonlight is a fantastic film, and it is a very, very worthy winner. I'm just someone who preferred La La Land, quite honestly. I love
Which
that
is
film.
fair enough. I think they're
Yeah.
both great films, but I do think like, that year the best film did win. But yeah, with Sinners, I think thoroughly well deserved for it to have broken that record. Like and as well, like in terms of those nominations, we have Delroy Lindo as well sneaking into to
Yes.
best supporting actor, which I mean, I when that happened, I had forgotten that he didn't get nominated for back when the Five Bloods came out. So
Yeah.
this was a very welcome and overdue surprise, I think.
Yeah, no, Delroy Lindo was absolutely fantastic in Five Bloods. Yeah, I think that film actually made my top five of that year. Obviously, because Spike Lee is such a phenomenal filmmaker, and I thought Delroy Lindo just absolutely blew me away in that. It really wasn't a stand, and it's just the fact that he was just overlooked that year. I think this is kind of like a makeup thing, but it is a real testament to how great he was. It was such limited screen time in Sinners that he is able to sneak in with the likes of Sean Penn, Stellan Skarsgård, and Jacob Elordi, Benicio del Toro, in what is pretty one of many stacked categories this year. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, just looking at Best Picture alone, you have like some of the biggest films like that. You have Sinners, obviously, but you have One Battle After Another. You have Marty Supreme. You have Frankenstein. And surprisingly, F1 snuck in there, which
Yeah.
that's the one. I'm just like, it's not a bad film by any means, but really, okay, you do you.
Oh, Oh, now I have choice thoughts on F1 and the nominations that it received, which I will save those for a little bit. But I do think that in terms of the films nominated, it we have when you look at Hamnet, Train Dreams, Eames, it's such a diverse lineup we've got this year
It
in
really
both
is.
when it comes to subject matter, the voices behind them, sentimental value as well. The fact that we have not one but two international nominees in the running this year with The Secret Agent as well. And also, speaking of The Secret Agent, to come back to Delroy Lindo for a second as well, I think this year also has some of my, I think the so a really good selection of first time nominees when it comes to the acting categories.
Yes.
So Wagner Moura getting his first nomination for The Secret Agent, which I haven't seen at this point in time. I missed it when it was at London Film Festival, but there is a preview screening happening for Cineworld Unlimited members later this month, which I will be all over because I'm dying to see it. But I'm really happy to that he's come a long way since his days on Narcos to now be an Academy Award nominee. And again, it's one of the and like to think as well like the voice of death from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish
Yes.
is now an Oscar nominee.
And he was so good at that. Like, I mean, I know that character is kind of getting like a bit of like cult recognition online, but it is a genuinely scary character in Puss in Boots: The Last Wish of all things. So, like, you
Mm,
never expect like a Shrek spin-off to have a character that menacing. And Wagner Moura, like, has such a very charismatic presence to him that he really makes that character feel alive, but also really funny at times, but genuinely intimidating. And I actually did see The Secret Agent at London Film Festival, and I did think it was a very good film. I will admit I didn't fall in love with it as much as others. I did feel it was a little kind of lethargic in places. I did feel that it was a little bit scattershot. It wasn't quite the film that I was perhaps mentally preparing myself for, if that makes sense. Like I was expecting something a bit more I don't know, like lively and so, and you certainly get that in certain scenes, which I won't spoil for you here because they deserve to be seen. But it is a much more of a downbeat kind of tense to a point kind of political thriller, and I do appreciate that. It didn't, some elements didn't entirely work for me, but he is great in the film, and I actually think it is really cool that the film has gotten this amount of recognition, to the fact that it is in Best Picture with so many of these other ones, alongside another international film, Sentimental Value, even a dark, twisted sci-fi comedy like Begonia. I actually
mm.
really love that nomination because it is a great film, but yet you wouldn't expect a film. I mean, yeah, this is coming off like other Yorgos Lanthimos films being in Best Picture, like Poor Things and The Favourite. So he is definitely familiar with the Academy at this point. But the fact that this kind of very out there kind of story, a remake, in fact, of the South Korean film Save the Green Planet, it's among all these other Oscar contenders, and I actually think, like you said, this is definitely a much more diverse set of films than yeah, I guess since the Barbie Oppenheimer year.
Oh yeah. We also have when it comes to first time nominees, Stellan Skarsgård for Sentimental Value, who
Yeah,
I'm honestly surprised that it's taken him this long to get nominated, but very well deserved. Jacob Elordi as well for Frankenstein. I feel like it's a two-horse race between those two in that category, and honestly, I wouldn't mind. I either of them winning any of them in fact. We also have as well um, well, not in terms of first time nominees, but something that I'm really quite happy and quite amazed about is a nomination for one Amy Madigan for her performance in Weapons. Now, something that now this is her first nomination in 40 years.
yeah, that's pretty. I can't remember what the first one was for, but it has been a very long time since then. Yeah, so I mean, just to come back with a character like Gladys, who has become this kind of like iconic figure. on the online film community, which is, I mean, it's you wouldn't think it at first because I mean, when I saw Weapons, like I enjoyed the film quite a bit. Again, I didn't really love it as much as others. Initially when I did first see the film, I was really into it. I was really into like the mystery, the intrigue of all the really freaky stuff that happens. And then I was even fine with every so often this weird clown-like creature who is Amy Madigan showing up every now and then. But as it kind of goes into it, as it kind of reveals that Amy Madigan is behind so much more of it, then I was starting to lose it. Like it was starting to lose me in terms of how it became just a bit more campy. Like I felt like she was acting more like the aunt from Sleepaway Camp. If you've never seen that film, or if you have, then you know exactly what kind of tone of performance I'm talking about. But it was really like I saw it a second time, and it actually really clicked to me. There's just like, oh, I get what this is trying to be now. This is like a modern day Brothers Grimm fairy tale. And honestly, a lot of my problems with it the first time, including the tone of performance that Amy Madigan was given, really made sense to me. And Amy Madigan is great in the film. She's very memorable. She doesn't have a lot of screen time, less than like 20 minutes, maybe even less than 15 minutes, but she does steal an incredible amount of scenes. And yeah, no, I think it is really cool that, the Academy has recognized a purely horror-based performance. In fact, honestly, as a whole, this has been a fantastic year for horror at the Oscars. Again, you have Sinners in there. You have yeah, Amy Madigan and Weapons. You have like it's not technically a traditional horror, but Rose Byrne I Have Legs, If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, which is kind of like a psychological horror in a different sense. But even Frankenstein, I guess
Mm.
we shouldn't technically, I wouldn't technically class Frankenstein as a horror, but it's more like a sci-fi fantasy. But I get why some people consider it horror. But yeah, I mean, just look at all the nominations for all these horror entries, and just think like, wow, this is a breakthrough moment for the genre. Like
Mm.
it really is.
Oh yeah. So Amy Madigan, her last nomination was in 1980. Was at the was for Twice in a Lifetime. Which came out in 1985.
Right.
So that makes her like that. That's I think the longest gap between first and second nominations in history.
Yeah,
But yeah, and going and also in the same category as another first time nominee, you have Elle Fanning for Sentimental Value, who had a great year last year between that and Predator Badlands,
yeah.
turning in three very different fantastic performances.
Yeah, no, and alongside it, you have her sentimental value co-star Inga Ipsdottir Lilias is a well-deserved nominee. She really is a secret weapon of that film. And also, you have Wunmi Masaku for her role in Sinners, and Tiana Taylor for One Battle After Another. So, yeah, a really strong lineup. And
Yeah,
honestly,
plus also speaking of sentimental value, Renate Reinsve got her first nomination for Best Actress for Value. Now, because back when Worst Person in the World came out, she got nominated at the BAFTAs, but not the Oscars. So, and which, yeah, Worst Person in the World, I think, is one of the best films to have come out this decade so far. So, again, I'm really happy to have seen her get recognized for this because she is truly fantastic in Sentimental Value.
yeah, she's a phenomenal performer. Like she's just on another level in Worst Person in the World and in Sentimental Value as well. I mean, just under the direction of Joachim Trier, she really thrives. And it's great to see that she's, done quite a bit with her career as well. She had a role in A Different Man from a couple of years ago.
Mm.
And I believe she's also in that Backrooms movie that's being made at A24, I think. So
Yes, she
she's,
is.
yeah, so she's definitely got a profile thanks to The Worst Person in the World, which she also won the Cannes Award for Best Actress. But it's great to see her recognized here. Again, you have Jessie Buckley for Hamnet, which is pretty much the de facto front runner. I
Mm.
honestly, I mean, a close second might be Rose Byrne. You also have Emma Stone on there for Begonia, and the one that's caused perhaps the most controversy, Kate Hudson for Song Sung Blue. And a lot of people seem to be up in arms about this one because one, Song Sung Blue it's a fine film, but it's nowhere near as like widely acclaimed as some of the other movies on the list. But also, some people think that she occupies a place that a lot of people feel should have gone to Chase Infinity for One Battle After Another, who unfortunately was omitted here, but has been recognised at the BAFTAs, which we'll be discussing later as well.
Mm. Now, when it comes to Song Sung Blue, I feel it's the sort of film that I could have seen dominating the Oscars, I don't know, about 10, 15 sort of years ago, around the sort of time they let Extremely Loud and Incredibly Close become a Best Picture nominee.
Hmm.
But I think what people are kind of forgetting, I feel like I don't think Song Sung Blue is probably one of the least seen out of all of the films that are nominated this year. So I do understand why there is such a an uproar about it. But as someone who has seen Song Sung Blue and did like it more than most people, it seems. I think she gives the best. She gives a great performance in it. I do think it is a deserving nomination. Do I think it is quite as deserved as someone like Chase Infinity or Jennifer Lawrence for Die My Love or Amanda Seyfried for The Testament of Anne Lee? Maybe not, but she I don't think that her inclusion should be immediately dismissed out of hand.
Yeah, I do agree. I did enjoy Song Sung Blue. I actually found it very charming, and yeah, I do like Neil Diamond anyway. So I enjoyed like hearing all like the tribute acts and all that sort of stuff as well. But yeah, Kate Hudson is genuinely great in Song Sung Blue. It might be one of her best performances probably since Almost Famous. And it is cool to see her be recognized in that regard. And yeah, I mean, I do feel that putting Chase Infinity forward for lead actress instead of supporting is it was always a bit of a gamble, kind of like when they put forward Lily Gladstone for lead for Killers of the Flower Moon a couple of years ago. That didn't quite work out as well as they'd hoped as well, but at least Lily Gladstone got the nomination.
Mm.
Whereas I think Chase Infinity, it's hard to define whether she is like a lead or not because I mean, on the one hand, yeah, she is vital to everything that's going on. She's what drives both Leonardo DiCaprio and Sean Penn to an extent in that film. But at the same time, she's also like introduced like 20 minutes, half an hour in, and even then, from that, she doesn't have a lot of screen time, but she does make the most of it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
like I don't think it's quite enough for it to be seen as a best actress when it comes to the submission.
hmm.
But at the same time, again, if it's one of those cases where I think she wasn't she in best supporting actress at the Golden Globes running for One Battle After Another.
I don't think so. I think she was put forward for lead musical comedy. So yeah, again, they tried to follow a similar trajectory that Lily Gladstone was put on for Killers of the Flower Moon, and in some respects, she did actually win. I think she did win the Golden Globe that year, and she did win the SAG award. I'm sorry, the
Mm.
ACTA award. I don't know why that changed. It's just so doesn't make any sense. Anyway, well, it does make sense. Anyway, getting off track. But yeah, like I also feel that Chase Infinity is a fairly new face. She has been in a few things. She's in that upcoming *Handmaid's Tale* prequel, and she's in *Presumed Innocent*, the show with Jake Gyllenhaal. But in terms of like features, she is still a fresh face, and I'll be honest, as great as she is in One Battle After Another, I'm not entirely sure that, securing a nomination that early on in her career might have done her many favors. I think this she is the kind of talent who will absolutely, like Lily Gladstone, will absolutely get her flowers at some point, but I think she needs to maybe um, get that kind of recognition for a role that's maybe a bit more complex and dare I say it, worthy than what she does here. But that, again, that is not to say that she was undeserving of a nomination, because I do think she was, and I do think it is a little disappointing she's not on there. But I'm just saying, she will get that nomination at some point because she is that good.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's a marathon, not a sprint. And speaking of One Battle After Another, of course, we have to talk about Best Actor, which I feel like is going to be one of the closest races because a it's basically down between Leonardo DiCaprio for One Battle After Another and Timothy Chalamet for Marty Supreme. Now, I hadn't seen Marty Supreme when we recorded our last episode. I have now. It was what I did on my New Year's Day, and yeah, I think this should go to Timothy Chalamet. Like no disrespect to Michael B. Jordan. Again, another first time nominee, fantastic in cinema in Sinners, one of two of my favorite performances of last year, and Ethan Hawke in Blue Moon, which I don't think I would have personally nominated. I think it is a good performance, but very over the top theatrical by design, but to the point where being around him for so long, it did start to draw me to the other members of the supporting cast, like Andrew Scott, Margaret Qualley, and Bobby Cannavale. But I think when it comes to Timothy and DiCaprio, I'd be more inclined to say DiCaprio if he hadn't already won for The Revenant, regardless of whether or not you think that he deserved to win for that film specifically. I'm personally not really in that camp. I think this should go to Timothy because of how Marty Supreme. It's a film that entirely hinges on that performance, how well he embodies such a deliberately unlikable character that you end up rooting for anyway because of how strong his belief in his own greatness is.
It's a kind of performance that, yeah, it's absolutely banking on, Chalamet's natural screen presence. He has a great charisma, and he is great at playing characters who you don't really like off the bat, but you're still drawn into them regardless. I think great example of that, aside from Marty Supreme, last year when he was nominated for as Bob Dylan in A Complete Unknown. I mean, in that film, they were not scared to kind of portray Bob Dylan as kind of a dick, and
Mm.
and I think Chalamet really embodied that while also still like playing into the mystery of it. But his take on Marty Supreme, and I did mention this a little bit in the last episode, it really is like on another cylinder. Like he is just like performing like it's going to be his last film ever, and he is just pouring every little bit of himself. It is just a brilliantly layered performance, because again, you this guy is by all accounts a narcissistic sociopath, but you really root for him because he has so much confidence. He has so much charisma. He is the person who, when he enters a room, he is the one you just instantly draw your eyes to, with his like little spectacles and little freckles and little mustache as well. And yeah, you're right. It really, the whole film really does hinge on the fact that you believe in his dream as much as he does. And I think he really is fundamental in the viewer really just being along for that wild and crazy ride, whether it's like hustling at a bowling alley, or being menaced by Abel Ferreira in a pretty great little supporting role. I actually kind of wish that Abel Ferreira was nominated for supporting actor because, obviously he's kind of a cult legend anyway, thanks to films like The
Mm.
Driller Killer and stuff. So to see him be like become Oscar nominee, Abel Ferrara would have been pretty cool to see. I'm not
Yeah,
gonna lie.
yeah, like as much as I would have enjoyed a timeline where the director of Bad Lieutenant is an Academy Award nominee, yeah, I do think that is still like a really strong category. But some when it comes speaking of categories, when it comes to this year, we actually have a brand new one, that being the Academy Award for Best Casting.
Yeah.
Now, the nominees for this lot are hold on a second.
Well,
Yes,
I've got
so Hamnet, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, The Secret Agent, and Sinners. Now, would you say that this is like a obviously not just in terms of the leads, but just the entire like the build names, but the entire cast as a whole? Do you think that these are like the five best examples that you would have gone with?
Well, it's interesting because this is the first year that the casting Oscar has gone into effect. So there's not really any precursors or anything else to really determine the pattern. I mean, the casting award has been implemented in shows like the BAFTAs and so on, but I mean, nothing to really kind of suggest a kind of industry-wide pattern. So we are kind of in uncharted waters here. In terms of the actual casting, I think it is a little bit more than just, casting like Michael B. Jordan as twins, or, casting Abel Ferrara as an aging gangster, or casting Paul Mescal as William Shakespeare. I think it goes beyond that. I think it really boils down to the essence of all these casting directors, for like Nina Gold, who's nominated for Hamnet, or Francine Maisler for Sinners. I think it really is just about taking the original script that their filmmakers have provided and really kind of visualizing which actors could potentially be the perfect fit. So I mean, for instance, you have One Battle After Another. For the role of Bob Ferguson, having this character being like this really paranoid and kind of bumbling kind of stoner who used to be a past revolutionary. Um, you know, I think casting Leonardo DiCaprio in that particular role is quite ingenious because, I mean, DiCaprio is genuinely a great comedic actor. Like, obviously, we've seen in films like Wolf of Wall Street or Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. He is very funny. He is great. It was slapstick, and he does some of that in One Battle After Another as well. But in terms of casting that particular role, I think a lot of it really does come down to what this casting director did. Cassandra Kalukundis, hope I'm pronouncing that name right. What she did to really visualize someone like DiCaprio for that unorthodox role, I think it really pays off, and I think that's really what we kind of need to be paying attention to, rather than just like which film has the best cast, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I very much agree with you. I think if there's any film that I feel like should have also been in contention with that criteria in mind, I would have also said Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. When you have, I think, Jacob Elordi, especially, the way that that performance relies so much on his physicality and how much expression he's able to bring is before the creature is able to properly develop the ability to speak when it's just him and Victor. And also, as well, one of this also ties into one of my favorite things about Guillermo del Toro as a filmmaker, which is his ability to use character actors to the best of their ability. When you have people like David Bradley and Ralph Ineson, Charles Dance, especially because it's actually the second time that Charles Dance has played the role of Frankenstein's father, because he'd previously done so in the Paul McGuigan, James McAvoy, Daniel Radcliffe, Victor Frankenstein. Like, 10 years ago.
Oh, I
And
forgot about that movie.
yeah, and I'd say that his application here is far better than it was in that one, or really like most projects that Charles Dance has been used in for like the last 10 years since he left Game of Thrones. To be honest.
I think it helps that this version of Frankenstein wasn't written by Max Landis. Yeah, don't get me
Oh
started.
yeah, that's very important.
Don't get me started on Max Landis. I could do a whole episode on that guy. But but yeah, I get that, and also surprising omission for that category. You know, in terms of that the entire cast was nominated, sentimental value. I do
Mm.
feel that yeah, that those actors, like we said, were cast perfectly, and they earned nominations. One of them might even end up winning. So yeah, the fact that it was kind of an omission in casting is interesting to say the least.
So when it comes to some of the other nominations that we have, I think the one that has really surprised everyone when it comes to its dominance. Well, I say dominance, but it's tied with The Secret Agent. But still, 4 nominations is not nothing, and that's F1.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, four nominations, one of them being Best Picture, and all the others being like under the line categories. I think it's editing, sound, and visual effects. I
Mm.
mean, inclusion in Best Picture in particular, it feels like it's kind of meeting the blockbuster quotient. Like quote, am I saying that right? I don't know, but anyway, filling that kind of role. Maybe they were kind of like banking on it being like a because it is from the same director and producing team, or some of them anyway, as Top Gun Maverick, which was also a Best Picture contender a few years ago. But I think Top Gun Maverick was a much more beloved film than F1 is, and I think F1 is fine. It's decent, you know. It's well shot action. I just think, you know, it just kind of falters with like the story and the characters, which are all very been there, done that, got the t-shirt kind of thing. So, I appreciate that most of its nominations are within the craft tech categories because I think that is where the film really shines the most. But I mean, I don't know. That's what I think. What about you?
Yeah. Now, I'll be honest. I think F1 is the only one of the nominees that I would actually consider bad, personally. But like
Mhm.
a lot of my dislike for it comes from my feelings on it as a vehicle for Brad Pitt. The way that the film, how it doesn't really seem to make up its mind whether or not as a we're meant to root for his character with his recklessness, his inability to work as part of a team, or if it or if it is meant to be a lesson for him. I think it very much feels like a have its cake and eat it type of that film, and it just kind of for me reflected very badly on Pitt's ego. But yeah, I think I think like for me, the fact that it got a nomination in that category, when you consider a film which got shut out completely in the form of No Other Choice, yeah, I to say I was fuming after that nomination came up was an understatement, especially when you can, yeah, No Other Choice got absolutely nothing at both the Oscars or the BAFTAs.
It is a bit of an oversight. I remember there was a bit of an uproar a few years ago when Decision to Leave, another Park Chan-wook film, was left out of the international feature film category. In fact, I think there's only been one time in the Academy history, and correct me if I'm wrong, that South Korea has had a nomination in that category. And funnily enough, it was for Parasite, which won. And I don't
Mm.
think they've had one before or since, but again, I could be wrong with that. But yeah, I do think I rewatched No Other Choice recently. It's a fun movie. I did actually like it a lot more the second time around, and I already pretty liked it a fair bit to begin with. but I really enjoyed, just the very wackiness of it, the very satirical tone that it was taking, and I think Lee Byung-hun really delivers a firecracker of a performance there, and it is well. I just enjoyed the little twist that it's like. I think knowing more what to expect really did help me.
Hmm.
So I am I'm a little surprised that No Other Choice isn't in there, but at the same time, I'm not, just because of South Korea's rocky history in that particular category. But honestly, I mean, No Other Choice, if we're talking about just overall omissions, No Other Choice not getting in is shocking. And Wicked for Good, a film that not a lot of people really enjoyed as much as the first one. I actually really liked Wicked for Good. I thought that was quite a good way to do that particular second act. And on yeah, just after last year, the first film getting like a load of nominations, including like Best Picture, Best Actress, Supporting Actress, all that, and then going into this year, it's gonna come away completely goose egged. So
Yeah, that was
that's
definitely a big surprise to be sure. But when you, especially when it comes to like Ariana Grande and Cynthia Erivo not being able to make repeat nominations, but it also also the production categories, and neither of its two new songs as well. There's no place like home and the girl in the bubble making it into the best original song category, and yet Diane Warren made it in once again.
Diane Warren. She just won't give up easy, won't she?
Yeah, like this might not sound like this might not be a necessarily fair comparison, but I hereby declare Diane Warren the Chick Hicks of best original songwriters, and because she's holds the record at this point for like I think the most nominations in that category without a win, and the fact and at this point, I think it is basically a done deal that it's going to Golden from K-pop Demon Hunters, which I think is a fair winner. I'm in the camp of wanting it to go to I Lied to You from Sinners, but the fact that part of me kind of there's a dark part of me that kind of hopes that it does go to the obligatory Diane Warren song, which is from a documentary about Diane Warren, just so that um, she she has her award, and then we can stop nominating her in future. It's not that I think that Diane Warren is a bad songwriter, but the fact that she keeps getting nominated almost every single year, I just think is a bit of a wasted slot at this point.
She has in a way become like the new Meryl Streep, in that that during that period where they just nominate Meryl Streep for just about anything because she's Meryl Streep. But yeah, like, I mean, it's got to happen for Diane Warren at some point, even if it is like you said, just as like, right, here you go, now leave us alone, kind of thing. I think they tried doing that by giving her like during one of the honorary Oscars a few years ago, but that I don't think that's deterred her from trying to go for the competitive one. It's kind of like when Peter O'Toole was awarded the honorary Oscar like in 2003, and he ended up rejecting it at first. He said something along the lines of I just want to win the little bugger outright." But I think he eventually did accept it, and he did get one other nomination for Venus, and he ended up losing that as well to Forest Whitaker for
Hmm.
Last King of Scotland, and that was the last one he before he died. So I don't know if it's me actually thinking about it. He's Diane Warren is not so much the Meryl Streep. She's more like this century's Peter O'Toole in that regard. I mean, take that as you will.
Oh, so now that I've had my Diane Warren rant, what would you say are and we've talked a bit about No Other Choice as well. What would you say are personally some of your biggest snubs from this year's crop of nominees?
Right off the bat, Ariana Grande for Wicked for Good, because I mean, like you said, I was kind of hoping she'd get like a repeat nomination, because I mean, I did think, she was. I mean, a lot of people didn't seem to like Wicked for Good, but a lot of people did agree that she was one of the best parts of it. I felt like Glinda was a lot more fleshed out in this one. I felt she was given a lot more of an arc, and I thought initially that that would translate into a win to make up for her loss last year. But obviously, people didn't like it as much, so it just completely ignored not just her but the film entirely. Same category. I'm surprised that Odessa Zion is not nominated for her role in Marty Supreme, because aside from Timothy Chalamet, she is the only one in that film who is really able to be on his level in
Mm.
terms of, just the kind of tricks that she does in order to be in his life, and or she has kind of like a bit of a playful and kind of ambitious side to her as well. And I did think the character was really well utilized. And Odessa Zion was genuinely very good, and she did earn the BAFTA nomination. She also got the actor nomination, previously known as SAG Awards. So yeah, I am surprised that she's not on this as well. I would honestly, okay, if Ariana Grande was kind of like dead in the dust, I would have swapped um Amy Madigan for Odessa Zion, quite personally. I mean, again, nothing wrong with Amy Madigan. I think it's great that, a performance like that has been recognized, but I mean, if I was a voter, I'd swap Madigan with a Zion. That's just me though.
Which, yeah, which is fair enough. I think in terms of my own personal slubs, speaking, going back to Marty Supreme, Daniel Lopatin, also known as One O Tricks Point Never, for best original score, I think was a rather surprising
Yeah,
omission in that category.
that
Which,
that is a genuinely fantastic score. Like, honestly, I've been listening to it non-stop on Spotify, since seeing the film. I love it's a very anachronistic 80s synth heavy score, but it really fits that kind of story that's being set, even though it's set in the 1950s. It really kind of gives off this like risky business kind of vibe, or like maybe even like 80s era Tony Scott. So yeah, I am surprised that that particular score wasn't up for anything at the Oscars anyway. I think it's been nominated for a few other things, but I don't think it got in at BAFTA either. Um,
nah,
no, but yeah, so that is a shame, because I do love it when the music branch kind of like recognizes unorthodox scores, like when Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross got nominated and won for their score in The Social Network, which at the time, it's a very unconventional, completely digital score next to a more traditional orchestral piece. So yeah, so it wasn't meant to be, but in that category, you do have Jerskin Fendrix's score for Begonia, and which I also kind of love. I love the very listening to it on its own. If you can close your eyes and listen to it, it's almost like something you'd hear in something like Fantasia. That
mm,
very classical orchestral feel to it, and it's again going along the story of a kidnapped CEO by a conspiracy theorist who thinks she's an alien. And yeah, so that was kind of a cool win for me, a cool nomination for me. But I'm just thinking in terms of other snubs, I think it's interesting that Avatar Fire and Ash didn't get in for Best Picture, which honestly I'm fine with, because Avatar Fire and Ash is honestly not very good.
mm.
But I think it would have just been like, if it had been in there, it would have just been like, oh, we nominated the others, so might as well.
Yeah,
Um,
like I think even as someone who also didn't like Avatar Fire and Ash, I think it would have been a more deserving nominee in Best Picture than F1,
mm,
to be honest. Although I will honestly, I know like there's been quite a bit of criticism about it getting nominated for best costume design. But you know what? I do see it because it does take a lot of work to be able to craft all of that Navi clothing, and especially when it comes to the headdress for Orang, for instance, and then be able to have make sure that the actors are able to wear it while also with the all the motion capture technology. I think that is an achievement at worth being recognized. So yeah, I would say that isn't exact that is a deserved nomination for Fire and Ash. Though when it comes to its other nomination for best visual effects, which let's be honest, it's going to win that like hands down.
Yeah, yeah. I
I
mean,
honestly
say what you will about the movie, the effects are gorgeous.
Oh yeah, but I think when it comes to that category, I do think one omission that I felt were I honestly think that the Fantastic Four First Step should have been in that category personally,
It
because
it
I
wasn't
mean,
even shortlisted.
say what you will about the MCU, but I think that when it comes to the way that that film visualized the 1960s retro future aesthetic, especially when it came to its depiction of Galactus, and truly making him feel like the planet devouring giant that Rise of the Silver Surfer failed to depict him as. I that was honestly one of the biggest moments of like cinematic serotonin I had all year. So, and I am like a little disheartened that didn't get recognized.
Yeah, it wasn't recognized in visual effects, and it wasn't recognized in production design either, which, a lot of people thought it would maybe get into that as well. But in terms of visual effects, I do have a glaring omission for that as well. And honestly, it is another superhero movie, which is honestly Superman. I mean, the effects in James Gunn's Superman, they are definitely leaning into like comic book territory, but that's just part of the overall aesthetic that he's going for. You're really establishing this new DC universe. And honestly, the effects in that are quite impressive. I mean, Crypto is not actually there. He is a CG creation, but he looks good as a CG creation. He looks very
Mm.
photorealistic. He does have a lot of vibrant personality to him, and I think it is surprising that it's not up there because I do think in terms of like a spectacle for visual effects. I think outside of Avatar, Fire and Ash, I think that was definitely up there. Yeah, I am surprised that not only is Jurassic World Rebirth a nomination in that category, but also The Lost Bus, which was surprising. I'm surprised someone remembered that film, or quite honestly. But at least of all for its visual effects, which I did see the movie, and honestly, looking back, the effects are good. I'm just surprised they got in over something like Superman, which I think is more fitting for that particular category.
Yeah. Um, yeah, I haven't seen The Lost Bus, so I can't really comment on whether or not that it is a deserving nominee, but I was certainly surprised to see it there. But we also have the Smashing Machine getting a sole nomination when it came to makeup and hairstyling, which I think yeah, like that was originally I think positioned to be quite a big contender when it around like the middle of last year. But again, I'm not surprised that it's come away with nothing in the end. But if it got was to get anything, I do think that category is deserving. Like the injuries in it, they feel so like they feel so debilitating and bloody, and it is actually like quite wince inducing to see the pain the MMA fighters in UFC are put through in it.
Yeah, I mean, if there was a category that, it was at least a lock-in for a nomination, it probably was that because also, the prosthetics used to make Dwayne Johnson look like Mark Kerr. I mean, he is unrecognizable in that movie. I'm not particularly a huge fan of the Smashing Machine. But I did like Dwayne Johnson in it. I think he was definitely delivering a decent performance, and nothing like spectacular, but like he's at least trying. And yeah, like I said, the makeup on not just him, but yeah, just like the brutality of those MMA fights is it takes a lot of skill to really kind of get those in line. And I think yeah, that's definitely worthy of a nomination. I I don't know what will win. Probably Frankenstein, quite honestly.
Yeah.
Which I can see that, you know, because again, what you see with Jacob Elordi is quite stunning in and of itself. But yeah, no, I think other than that, terms of omissions, I can't really think of much.
Oh, well, I do have a few extra to go through, but don't worry, I won't take too long. But I think when it came to follow up on our last episode, my numbers 4, 2, 5, 4, 2, and 1 films managed to get in at Best Picture, but not my
Nice.
number 3, that being Sorry Baby. And the fact that I think that, let's be honest, I think its chances of getting in at that category were a long shot. But I do think that it should have got in for Best Original Screenplay. That would have been my choice over Blue Moon personally. But again, I do think it is quite a strong category overall when you have like It Was Just an Accident, and Marty Supreme amongst the nominees in it.
Yeah, and also sentimental value and Sinners, which I think this category in particular, original screenplay, I think this is probably the best chance that Ryan Coogler has to win the Oscar. Same with Paul Thomas Anderson in adapted screenplay, because I mean, when it comes to Best Picture, I do, and director especially. I mean, if before the nominations, I would probably have assumed that One Battle After Another would be the front runner for both. But now that Sinners has come in and not just nabbed the most nominations of this year, but also just the most nominations of all time, parts of me kind of has a sneaky feeling that that might actually push Sinners over the edge. And I mean, if I'm wrong and One Battle After Another prevails in both director and best picture, then I will not be sad in the slightest. I think it would be a very worthy winner. But, you know, how cool would it be to have a film like Sinners, which has been proven to be just both a critical and audience hit, and has secured more nominations than Titanic, you know, and as a horror film, no less, winning this award, winning the top award in the entire film industry. Yeah, it'd be great if it went to One Battle After Another as well, but just like Sinners would be honestly an inspired choice. Same way that maybe like Moonlight was
Hmm.
back in the day over La La Land. So I mean, and that's my thing. Best picture and directing. I'm gonna hold steady on Paul Thomas Anderson for now because I do think he has that like overdue narrative. And again, that movie is a genuinely well directed anyway. But I would not be surprised if in that category Ryan Coogler does a Bong Joon-ho and just kind of like takes it at the last minute.
Yeah, I think regardless of what happens, Sinners was your favorite film of last year. One Battle After Another was my favorite film of last year, and the other was in our number 2 position. I think,
Hmm.
regardless of what happens, they're two fantastic films, and they will both deserve can fully deserve whatever wins that they end up getting.
Agreed.
Um, yeah. But to round off my snubs real quick while they're still off their on their mind, Wake Up Dead Man and Knives Out Mystery getting not making it in for adapted screenplay, and also I think Josh O'Connor and Glenn Close in the supporting categories. I feel like was a little bit disheartening when you consider how much of a great year 2025 was for Josh O'Connor, and Glenn Close put in one of, I think, the best performances of her entire career, especially when how much of Wake Up Dead Man hinges on her without spoiling on it. And then in the main categories, Train Dreams, I was very happy to see pick up nominations, but I think Joel Edgerton should have been in there over Ethan Hawke for Best Actor. I think that's the best performance of his entire career in that film. And then in Best Actress, I know this is a film that we quite heavily disagree on, but I think that Jennifer Lawrence also gave the best performance of her career thus far in Die My Love. It's such a chaotic and freeing performance that I really got the sense that she'd wanted to do for a very long time. And I think I just bought the pain and depression that her character goes through in that. And yeah, I think that yeah, she would have definitely like been one of my top choices if she had made it in.
I definitely agree with you about Wake Up Dead Man and about Joel Edgerton. I'm fine with Jennifer Lawrence missing here because I think, yeah, like you said, we do definitely disagree about Die My Love. I wasn't really a fan of it. You obviously were. But I do think Jennifer Lawrence, I mean, she's a great actor anyway, and I will not doubt her performance in that movie, regardless of what I think of it. I think the muted reception, not among critics, but mainly among audiences, is kind of was kind of telling because it is a very divisive film. It is very, in typical Lynn Ramsey fashion, it is a very unconventional and divisive film, very art house, very unorthodox in how it approaches certain plot points and certain sequences. I didn't get into it. I did find it kind of meandering and honestly kind of boring. But if there was a nomination that it did kind of would have been deserving, it probably would have been Jennifer Lawrence. But even then, I think her chances of actually getting in would have been very slim to begin with.
Which is fair enough. I think I was rooting for her after she did make it in at the Golden Globes. But on the topic of Die My Love, I have a section that I'd like to call "Could Have Been a Contender" after on Marlon Brando in On the Waterfront
It could
for
have been a
uh,
contender.
yeah, for films which earlier on in the year when they debuted at festivals positioned themselves to the like they would have been front runners, but then completely lost momentum over the course of this year. Films like The History of Sound, Rental Family, which is one I'm personally a bit upset over. Jay Kelly, The Testament of Anne Lee, Springsteen, Deliver Me from Nowhere, which I would have, after a complete unknown last year, I would have assumed that would have made it in, but before I actually saw it. Um, After the Hunt, which I'm very thankful didn't make it in at all. And is this thing on? But then again, in that case, I don't think Bradley Cooper went into that film wanting it to be an awards contender like he might have with Maestro, for instance. I fully believe that he made it based on his passion for John Bishop, and that has my utmost respect.
You know what? It would have been pretty cool to see a John Bishop get an Oscar nomination for. I think he produced this. I think he did he work on the story as well? I know
Yeah,
Will Arnett.
the story's credited to him.
Right, I know because I know Will Arnett co-wrote the script for Is This Thing On? I mean, it would have been cool to see Will Arnett get an Oscar nomination anyway, but like,
Yeah, in the same way as it would have been cool to see Adam Sandler finally get recognized for Jay
yeah,
Kelly.
I agree because I mean Adam Sandler and Jay Kelly genuinely is amazing. I think it might be one of his best dramatic performances outside of something like Punch Drunk Love or Uncut Gems. That he really got to the heart of that character. He really just nailed what Noah Baumbach was going for. I'm genuinely surprised that that film as a whole got blanked because it seems again like the kind of film that you'd think the Academy would kind of completely fawn over, but apparently not. Even with someone like Noah Baumbach, who has been recognized before for films like Marriage Story and The Squid and the Whale. So yeah, that is a bit of a surprise that Jay Kelly kind of got the shaft in that sense.
Yeah, but I think that comes down to, I think, sentimental value having stolen its thunder in several respects as this year's film about the industry. Which I mean, I know that I wasn't the biggest fan of Jay Kelly personally, so I'm not too upset about it. But I would still liked to have seen Adam Sandler in the running for that category, 100%. Um, but yeah, I think so. Looking at this year as a whole, what would you say is, I think, in your opinion, the most deserving nomination?
In terms of any category,
Yeah, just anything, like across the whole spectrum.
I would personally go for Ryan Coogler in Best Director because I think what Ryan Coogler manages to do with that concept, this kind of like a historical film about, what it is, to be living in the Jim Crow South in the 1920s, and this cast of characters, these ethnically diverse characters coming together just to just put on a party to just feel free for once in their lives, and then to cross that with a vampire horror that's not only genuinely well done, but also really taps into certain commentary about the exploitation of black stories, black culture, by literal blood-sucking freaks, and have it all come together in a way that doesn't feel like tonally jarring, and have it be a genuine celebration of culture. I mean, that scene of the "I Lied to You" sequence, which anyone listening, you know exactly which scene I'm talking about. The way that it's shot, the way that it all just comes together, it's just a beautiful piece of direction, and I am so glad. I mean, even if he loses out to Paul Thomas Anderson in the end, which I do think will be the case, I the fact that he's up there, for such a vivid um uh approach to all these various genres and styles of filmmaking, basically the artisanal version of From Dusk Till Dawn, and just to kind of imagine that being not just the critical and commercial hit that it was, but for it to be so clearly revered by the Academy, to the fact that it's again beaten the likes of Titanic and La La Land for most nominations in its history, all for a horror film, mind you. I think that is really deserving for Ryan Coogler, and I'm so glad he's getting his flowers, because these are his first nominations. A lot of people seem to forget he wasn't nominated for Black Panther when that when that was in Best Picture, and he wasn't nominated for anything for like Creed or Fruitvale Station or anything like that. So these are his first real nominations, and for a filmmaker of that kind of vision, that genuine passion, I think that is probably my pick for the most inspired nomination.
Honestly, you said it better than I ever could. Now, there's two names that come to mind for me, both from films that we haven't talked about yet in the conversation. The first one is Jafar Pahani in the Best Original Screenplay category for It Was Just an Accident, a film that I would have loved to have seen in Best Picture as well. But I think that that is just such a well constructed and thoughtful screenplay, which has so much to say about the political sphere in Iran, and the whether and the futility of revenge. That it's like it's one of when it comes to films that I've thought about the most since seeing them. That's one that's really stuck with me. But my other choice is in the other one of the other categories it's nominated for, that being Best International Feature Film, which again is another stacked category this year. And I think for me, one of the most deserving nomination this year goes to The Voice of Hind Rajab for Best International Feature Film, which genuinely it's one of the best films that I have seen in my life that I never want to watch again because it that emotionally destroyed me that much.
Yeah, no, I mean, Voice of Punjab is just a fantastic movie in and of itself, and as is, it was just an accident. And both, I think, their inclusion just among this year's crop of nominees, honestly, that's what makes this year so exciting. And I can't wait to see what happens when the ceremony unfolds on the 15th of March. So
Yeah,
we
yes,
will.
that's right. And
We,
here in the UK, it will be available on ITV. The pre-show coverage will start from about 11 o'clock, and then the ceremony about an hour or so after that.
or well, I mean, we don't know the exact times as of recording, so we might be a little bit off there. But
Yeah,
rough.
just going based on past experience.
Oh yeah, 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 absolutely. We might be right on the money. You never know. Hey, you've emerged back into the light at last. For those listening, you were quite in a dark room earlier. Now you've actually switched on the light, so good for
Yeah,
you.
well, it's not so much that I was in a dark room, it's the where my recording space is right by a window, and yeah, the sun was going down, so I turned on the light, so I stopped being like Alejandro Gonzalez Iñárritu of like waiting for for the right moment of like natural light in The Revenant or something.
Yeah, trying to maybe getting a head start on Digger that's out later this year. So, oh wow. Okay, so now that we've had all this bit of chit chat about the Oscars and what we think of the nominations, I think let's do what we're going to be doing for each month from here on out. So let's just quickly go over what we thought of the month previously. So, this being February, we're going to be looking at January. So, we're just quickly going to be chatting about what we felt were the best and the worst films that we saw over this month. So, we'll just keep it to one each. So, one best, one worst each. So, Joe, do you have a pick for your favorite film of January
Yeah,
2026?
so I think the best film of objectively speaking to come out in January is The Voice of Hindu Rajab. But when we're talking about my favorite, then for me that has to be 28 years later, The Bone Temple. I think in
Mm.
terms of the film that I had just the most fun experience with watching, that takes it hands down because like there is no other way that I would describe it than feeling like a descent into hell in the best possible or way. Like it actually made me wince and like there were parts where I had to watch it through my fingers because it goes to such dark and depraved places when comes to the things that the cult of Jimmy's led by Jack O'Connell, who speak like we talked so much about Sinners earlier. I think they missed the trick as well, not nominating him in Best Supporting Actor. Like he's put in two of the best villain performances of recent memory in just like the last 9 months. And he's such a big factor as to why the Bone Temple works so well. There are things in this film that, especially involving the song "The Number of the Beast" by Iron Maiden, which I am never going to forget any time soon. And it goes into such unexpected directions, but they don't feel unexpected for the sake of being unexpected. And yeah, I think that even as someone who really liked 28 Days Later, like this is was just such the follow up that I wanted, but also never knew I wanted at the same time. And like Nia DaCosta truly has it, I think. So yeah, that is Bone Temple is my favorite film of January 2026.
Honestly, I'd have to agree with you because I mean, and I'm not just saying that because I was very fortunate to have been invited to the UK premiere of it at the BFI IMAX in London, which is where I actually got to meet a lot of the cast, including Jack O'Connell, Alfie Williams. I even managed to say hi to Danny Boyle and Cillian Murphy, who are producers on the film, executive producers anyway. And so, I mean, obviously that was pretty cool, but actually getting to see the film itself with an audience like that and seeing scenes like that, the Iron Maiden sequence, which is just a complete and utter like bonkers performance just by Ray Fiennes as well. And yeah, I can see that being like a highlight of the year for so many people, and it's the first month of the year,
Yeah,
so I can
I would
so
have loved to have been in the room where that scene was pitched and then storyboarded and everything. I just really would love to have like seen the creative process behind that.
Yeah, that was just an outstanding sequence in a movie that is genuinely outstanding in its own way because yeah, like you said, Nia DaCosta, she brings a very different energy than Danny Boyle did with the last 28 years later from last year. It's a much more somber film, it's much more low key, but it is very character heavy. Like the scenes between Ray Fiennes and Jack O'Connell, they're genuinely like well written by Alex Garland, but also genuinely well acted. Like these were the moments where I mean, yeah, you're terrified by Sir Lord Jimmy Crystal in a lot of previous scenes, and also are really charmed by Ray Fiennes and his own arc, but seeing them together, you know, and swapping kind of like little things with each other, that was the moment where they actually really felt like people, like real three-dimensional characters, and not just like a typical like hero villain kind of archetypes. Like I genuinely believed that these were just two people talking, and I mean, because the infected, aside from Samson, they're barely in the movie, and you really don't miss their presence. Like very much like the first 28 days later, it really is all about, you know, the characters and how they just kind of survive this incident, and it really works because the writing is just so on point, and you know, just the acting especially is just perfection all around. And I really admired what Nia DaCosta was doing, all the new progressive twists with the infected, with Samson, again without spoilers, but he becomes a character in his own right, this infected alpha, and it really sets the stage for a third film, which has been confirmed. I know the film is kind of underperformed at the box office a little bit, but based on the positive word of mouth that it received after the first screenings, like a third film has been confirmed, and Cillian Murphy is going to be returning to that film as well. And I think Danny Boyle is up to direct it,
Yes.
but I wouldn't be shocked if he hands over the reins over to Nia DaCosta again, because with this film, and I like Nia DaCosta as a filmmaker. I mean, last year she had Hedda, and she's also impressed with things like Candyman and the Marvels and other things like that. But here she really, I feel, embraces that kind of um lyricism that horror cinema can provide. Very similar, in fact, to what Ryan Coogler did with Sinners. I really admire this filmmaker and this bonkers vision that she has, and it just comes together so well. So yeah, I would say that it's my pick of the month as well. So yeah, we're both in
Oh
agreement on
yeah,
that.
but what somewhere where we differ is in our choices for the worst film of the month. But and well, it is January. January is I feel like we get it better in the UK than in America because of how many awards films get staggered releases over here. So it's a lot. So the first couple months are always a lot busier. Like we're looking ahead to February, for instance. There's several weeks where there's like 5 to 6 fairly high profile new releases all coming out at once. But that doesn't mean that we've been unable to escape some of I think some of the dumpiest dump month releases of the last few years. Now, I'll let you go first with your choice for worst film of the month.
Yeah, so mine is probably going to be the same as a lot of people's choices for the absolute bottom of January 2026 releases, and that's Return to Silent Hill. I'm someone who's never played the games. Haven't even seen the films. I really don't know much about this franchise, but I from what I've gathered, I am aware that, Silent Hill 2, which this film is based on, is considered not just like the high point of the video game series, but also one of the best video games ever created for its storytelling and its characters and all that. So on the one hand, I can understand, the passion that this director Christoph Gans, who directed the first Silent Hill movie, he wanted to just make this faithful adaptation of this game. But the thing is, in a lot of ways, Return to Silent Hill is like watching a video game, but not in the good way, because the way the dialogue and the acting is, it really does feel like something you would see or hear out of like early 2000s video game screenwriting. And honestly, the effects in it are about on par as what you'd find in like the early like PS1 days. Like there's a sequence where, dude is just going through like what is essentially hell on earth, and honestly it looks as just as bad as the effects in that 90s Spawn movie. Like it was just, and I get that they had a really low budget for it, and not at least not as much as I think previous film adaptations of Silent Hill. But my God, it looks cheap to the extreme, and also has wins the award for fakest beard I've ever seen in my life. That Jeremy Irvine, who's the lead in this, and he's a good actor. I've liked him in other things, but here he's really not given the best direction. There are parts in this where it's like flashback sequences, but the beard he is wearing, it's like you could go to like your nearest fancy dress shop and find something that's more realistic. I mean, it's like this is Spirit Halloween level of like fake facial hair. Like, and I know it's really like silly to like pin a whole criticism based on that, but it really does speak to how cheap and kind of uninteresting the film as a whole is. It really did feel like my time was wasted on this movie. So yeah, Return to Silent Hill does not do much to separate the argument that video game movies kind of suck. So yeah, Return to Silent Hill, not a worthy return.
Oh, well, I don't disagree with anything that you said there, but I will admit that I didn't quite hate Return to Silent Hill as much as you did. Like I haven't played the games either, but I'm familiar enough with them to know Silent Hill 2 fairly well. For anyone who is a fan of the games, they unfortunately don't adapt the joke ending where it turns out that the entire thing was being controlled by a dog in a room, and
Wait,
then the
are you
credits plays.
serious? Is that
Yes, I
actually a
am
thing?
being serious. That is
Oh
like
my
an
God.
actual joke ending in Silent Hill 2.
Oh my God.
And then the credits music
If
is
it
dog
did
barks.
if it oh my God. Okay, if it had done that, like a 10 out of 10, next best picture contender right there, that would have been amazing.
Yeah, move over one battle after another.
Yeah, no, this
But
dog ending. Oh my God.
but yeah,
Obviously,
so
there should be a troll ending in the extreme, but my God, that would have been amazing.
oh yeah, I will admit I did like the effort that they went to in visualizing something like Pyramid Head, which is like one for one with how it looks in the game. Plus, also, I thought that the atmosphere was all right. It is a boring film, which is so nothing that I know that the original Silent Hill from 2006 has kind of got a little bit of a cult following, but I don't even think people who enjoyed that one would like Returnal that much. But I mean, but at least it didn't. It did. It wasn't an act. It. I didn't have an actively bad time watching it, which is what my choice for the worst film of January gave me. And that was Mercy, starring Chris Pratt, from director Tima Beckmantov of Wanted, Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, the Ben-Hur remake, which that is a filmography right there. Derogatory.
Can I make a quick confession? I kind of enjoyed Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
I
I
mean, I
like
would agree with you.
it's an absolutely stupid movie, but it is a guilty pleasure of mine. I just love the absolute bonkersness of it, and the fact that it does take itself so seriously does make it funnier for me. So
Oh yeah,
it's a
like
guilty pleasure for me.
anything that unironically ends with a Linkin Park song does get some enjoyment points from me. Like I will fully that's why Transformers Revenge of the Fallen isn't the worst Transformers film in my opinion, because it has New Divide. But Mercy, even with that kind of filmography, is genuinely awful, because something that people may not know is the whole screen life genre of like films being filmed in being made entirely through phones, Zoom, desktop, whatever. He is like a major architect of that, which include films like Unfriended, Searching, which I personally quite like a lot, but also last year's War of the Worlds starring Ice Cube. And
I mean,
I mean,
you have to admit, Mercy is better than War of the Worlds 2025.
it's better than War of the Worlds, but is that really saying much?
I mean, Mercy doesn't have like endless Amazon product placement, let's be honest.
I
Although,
mean,
although,
it
uh,
doesn't have that, but it does have Chris Pratt strapped to a chair for the entire run, for like an hour and a half, and proving just how limited his range of facial expressions actually is. It's not quite on the same level as Ice Cube, in terms of how much they repeat the same reaction shot, but it gets close to that at some points. But no, the reason that this was significantly worse than Return to Silent Hill for me is because it is a relentless assault on the senses of a film. Like my how things work for me when it comes to bad films is that I will, if I have an actively bad time watching something because of the way that the filmmaking affects me sensorially, then that will massively affect its, my opinion of it. And Mercy is the sort of film where it throws so much visual jingling keys, like without any breaks. It's it inundates you so much, and this is without seeing it in an uplifted format as well, like 3D or 4DX, for instance. That I came out of my screening with a massive headache, and any film that does that for me is not something that I'm going to look back on fondly. So yeah, couple that as well with the fact that it's a film which essentially advocates for artificial intelligence by the end of its runtime. I feel absolutely no mercy whatsoever in calling Mercy the worst film of January. And so far, I think it is a good contender for the worst film of the year.
that early, okay. Well, we'll see how we feel in at the end of the year. I saw Mercy as well. Again, I didn't dislike it as much as you did, but it's definitely not a good movie. Like, I think it is, you're right, it is, it's a screen life movie that, like films like Unfriended, Searching, or Host as well. I want to throw that one out there. Unlike those films, this one, I think, kind of wants to have it both ways. It wants to be this screen life film, but also this more conventionally shot thriller, and they don't really mesh well together. Like I think that you could have had scenes of Chris Pratt being strapped in the chair or whatnot, and still just have it from again like something like Searching, just from the um, webcam's point of view, but. And I get why they did that, because Chris Pratt and Rebecca Ferguson, who's this AI judge, I mean, they're massive names, so you don't want to necessarily put You can put one of them behind a screen for the entire thing, which is what Rebecca Ferguson does. But Chris Pratt, I mean, I get it. He's a big star and whatnot, but even still, it is very clumsily done. It is a very predictable mystery. It's not even a mystery, I would say. It's just like, okay, which is the most obvious direction that it's going to go in, and it does. And it just
Yeah,
comes, it
exactly.
completely unfolds during like the last 10 or so minutes, where it just becomes like a general Jerry Bruckheimer action movie. And yeah, no, like you said, with the final message essentially being like, "Hey, artificial intelligence, it makes mistakes, but so do humans. So we should learn to get along together." It's just like, okay, well, let's see how the wider public feels about that. And surely enough, literally, as I walked out of the cinema when the credits started rolling, I literally heard the person going down the steps before me just say out loud, "Well, that was utter shite." So I think that kind of gives you an indication of what the general public kind of feels about this movie, as opposed to critics like both of us.
Yeah, and I think when it comes to the general public, I want to very quickly talk about how it's done financially because it opened number one in America, but because of how stacked the award season contender roster is over here, and also when you have films like Avatar and The Housemaid still doing fairly well weeks on from their release, it opened at number nine here. Um, it opened slightly above Return to Silent Hill, but in terms of new releases, it got beaten by No Other Choice and Saipan, which is the drama about the 2002 World Cup with Aina Hardwick and Steve Coogan, which I did quite like a fair bit. But those two were in far less screens than both Mercy and Return to Silent Hill. And I think the fact that they have done so terribly financially, it proves, I think, that maybe UK audiences aren't quite as bad at choosing what they support financially as we tend to give them credit for. So good on you UK box office. You've done something right for once.
I think so. On top of that as well, we've got to touch very briefly on the Melania documentary that's just come out from noted sex offender Brett Ratner, and about the wife of noted sex offender Donald Trump. And the fact that, okay, in America, I can see why, it would get like, I think it's grossed like 8 million, which is like one of the highest debuts for a documentary in years. So I get it in America, but in the UK, I have not seen a single person who is even interested in watching this film outside of just writing a review for it. Like I heard somewhere that apparently um, there was only like 3 tickets sold in a large part of the country. I don't know if it was the entire country, but a significant portion of it. 3 tickets for Melania. And by the way, I'm not covering that movie in any way, shape, or form. I'm not
And
even
neither am
acknowledging.
I.
I'm not even acknowledging its existence, because to acknowledge its existence is to play right into their hands. Which is ironic because I know we're talking about it now, but we're not recommending seeing it anyway. But the point is, like you say, like UK audiences are a lot more savvy to that sort of blatant no, I do not want to watch this kind of bollocks than the US audiences. Like literally, I saw a trailer for the Melania film in front of Hamnet of all things. And
Same.
literally, it was me in the cinema with one other person. That trailer ends, and I just out loud just said, "No." And then the other person who was like a few rows back just said, "Same." So just goes to show you how much the us Brits are really just want to say just a great big fuck you to anything Trump related.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
unfortunately, we're not free from Brett Ratner because Trump has endorsed him making Rush Hour 4.
because of course he has. Yeah, yeah, I'm sure that will turn out just fine. I'd love to see that go over with everyone else in Hollywood. And And I'm sure Ratner's in the Epstein files somewhere, so I'm sure he'll actually get to make that movie, and it's totally not a way to appease appease Trump by the Paramount lot. So anyway, all that aside, those are our best and worst films of January 2026. And I think it is going to be quite an interesting month up ahead because, I mean, in the coming weeks, we've got new films by Sam Raimi, who's got Send Help coming out.
Yes, I'm so excited for that. Like
Oh,
one of my most anticipated films of the year, and of course I forgot to mention it last time.
well, you know what? I've already managed to see an advanced screening of it. I'm just going to say you're in for a treat.
Oh, I'm
Um,
so excited. Also, Bart Layton, director of The Imposter and American Animals, which I think are two of the most underrated films like of last decade, coming back with Crime 101, reuniting Chris Hemsworth and Mark Ruffalo. And the cast for this is stacked because you also have Monica Barbaro, Halle Berry, Barry Keoghan, Corey Hawkins, and Nick Nolte as part of this. So, plus also Gore Verbinski with Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die, which is going to be a big AI fuck you, which I'm really excited for that one.
yes.
Wasteman, which is up for the BAFTA for Outstanding Debut from a British director, writer, and producer. I've heard nothing but great things about that one from from London Film Festival. Speaking of that category, very quickly, Pillion is also up for it. If that comes out in America stateside, go see Pillion if you haven't already. It is
Yeah.
one. I think it is one of the best overlooked films of last year. Um, but we also have as well. Finally, we're getting Looney Tunes: The Day the Earth Blew Up here.
Yes, I'm so excited for that. I love Looney Tunes. I grew up on them, and the fact that this is like the first fully animated original Looney Tunes movie on the big screen. I mean, it's just a cause for celebration. And because I know we've got Coyote versus Acme coming up this year finally at some point. And this has been I've heard nothing but great things about this from other Looney Tunes fans. So I'm really excited to see this one. I just want to feel like a big kid again seeing that. But in terms of animated films, we also have Goat coming out, which is from Sony Pictures Animation, who also did the Spider-Verse movies and K-pop Demon Hunters. And it's very much that style of animation, like the kind of slowed frame rate, but also very stylish in its own way. And it's got producer Stephen Curry, the basketball player, on board as well. And that looks like a lot of fun. You've got voice actors like Caleb McLaughlin from Stranger Things, and Gabriel Union's in there, David Harbour, Patton Oswalt, Aaron Pierre. It's a stacked voice cast. But in terms of alternate animated films, they're also coming out this month. We have Little Amelie or the Character of Rain, which has been
Yes, I'm so looking forward to that one.
yes, that has been nominated for Best Animated Feature alongside Arco, Elio, K-pop Demon Hunters, and Zootropolis 2. But Little Amelie, again, I've heard great things about. View Lumiere is releasing this. That's the distribution arm of View Cinemas.
Who
That'll be
also have
released.
100 Nights of Hero coming out next month as well.
Yeah, they're actually doing very well for themselves as a distributor, so props to them. But elsewhere, we have Wuthering Heights, which I'm not sure how it's going to turn out. I mean, early word seems to be pretty positive, but you could say that about any film that gets screened pretty early.
My feelings on Wuthering Heights are I just don't want it to be another Saltburn. I feel like that was my biggest worry with Jacob Elordi's casting as Heathcliff. I buy him more as it having seen Frankenstein now, but I feel like slightly hesitant about it because I just want to see what angle Emerald Fennell takes with it.
It looks like it looks a very horny film, which I'm not complaining about. I mean, it's cool that you can do that sort of thing with like the likes of Emily Bronte, but yeah, let's see how that turns out. I'm very curious because it's in quotations that title as well, Wuthering Heights. So makes one think, is this just like a quote unquote adaptation or what? So, well,
Hmm.
that remains to be seen. Elsewhere, quickly, we have The Testament of Anne Lee finally coming out this month. Same with If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You. And The Secret Agent as well will also be making its UK screen debut. Cold Storage, which is the film based on David Coep's novel. He also wrote the screenplay. It looks like a B movie kind of evil fungus kind of thing. It looks quite fun. And Charlie XCX, The Moment, will also be at, as well as the Elvis Presley concert, which is a new concert documentary by Baz Luhrmann. And then finally, we have, Sirat, which we'll get into some point maybe next month as well. But I really highly recommend Sirat off the cuff. And then you also have Scream 7, which I know a lot of people aren't looking forward to because of how the producers of it really treated former star Melissa Barrera for firing her for basically speaking her mind on things that she absolutely has the right to be concerned about. So yeah, as a result, not many people are looking forward to Scream 7, and honestly, it doesn't look that great, at least not compared to the more recent ones. But
Yeah, it's a film that, from the advertising alone, has just feels like a pivot. Um,
hmm,
but in terms of the way the narrative is being set up, and I mean, it's very much going to be like a wait and see. But I don't blame anyone who has decided to actively boycott its release.
yeah, well, I mean, we'll see how it is when we do our little roundup next month. But for now, thank you all so much for listening to our take on this year's Oscars, and we will be doing a follow-up episode talking about what we thought of the winners of this
Yeah.
year, what we think of the ceremony. That will be a Patreon exclusive episode. So we'll be doing two episodes next month, a normal one and then just a Patreon exclusive. So we'll be doing that then. But as ever, Joe, it's always great to chat with you about all things film, and yeah, I'm really excited that we keep getting to do this together.
Honestly, well, I know this is only our second episode, but this is honestly just one of the most fun things, like, to be able to do as part of my job. And yeah, I'm bring on the rest of this year. Is all I have to say. Like, we've got some exciting stuff in the works for sure. But yeah, thanks for having me on, Jack. And now, where can everyone find you after this episode?
Well, you can find all of Film Feeder's social links in the episode description, and they'll also be on your screens in a moment if you're watching this on the little end bumper. But I think the real question is, where can people find you, Joe Warren? Joe Warren?
Well,
Why did I say
everyone
Joe
can
Warren there? Oh, I don't know. Anyway, Joe Warren.
well, everyone can find me at WARNE Joseph on Blue Sky and Instagram. But yeah, thank you for very much for having me on, Jack. And we will be back in your ears and just back generally next month with
Yeah,
a double header.
yeah, we will. And I don't know what the other episode will be about just yet, but we will find out soon enough. So until then, thanks for tuning in, everyone, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Take care.
Hey, you've made it to the end of the episode. Thank you so much for sticking around. Please like and subscribe on whichever platform you may be listening on. Make sure that you're following Film Feeder on all our social media channels, the links and handles to which are all listed in the episode description. And do consider supporting Film Feeder either on our Patreon or Ko-fi pages, the links to which are also in the description, where even the smallest donation, either monthly or as a one-off, will be an enormous contribution towards helping a hard-working creative like myself. Finally, don't forget to visit the Film Feeder website at filmfeeder.co.uk, where I post regular written reviews and weekly movie menus that round up all the latest movies coming to cinemas, streaming, and on demand here in the UK. Until next time, I'm Jack Martin, your film chef extraordinaire, whetting your appetite for film each and every month. Bye for now.